Welcome everyone to another video. In this video, we will differentiate Active Directory with LDAP. I'm looking around a lot on YouTube, but I couldn't find a short video where I can differentiate what is Active Directory and what is LDAP. So Active Directory, first of all, it is basically used in a Windows environment. If you have a Windows environment network, you wanna manage your resources, your users, and all that stuff. So we typically use Active Directory. So let me give you an example. So for example, let's say this is my Active Directory, and for example, your company name is ABC. You have different departments. So staff, this is my organization. We will call it root directory organization, and then we will make different sort of groups of type of users, type of units of organization. These are called organization unit. If you want some more details on Active Directory, please put a comment. I will give you comprehensive understanding of on Active Directory and the structure. In this video, we will just focus on LDAP versus the Active Directory. So these are called organizational unit. So for example, I have a person named Alice. She works in ABC organization, and she's, for example, a staff, but she also work in marketing team as well. So she need different type of access whenever she will log into the system, right? So we are managing the permission, what type of permission Alice has, what type of resources Alice can access. So all what group she belongs to, like all the group policies are basically tied up in Active Directory. Got it? So in Active Directory, we have all the users, so all the users, all the resources, and what their relationship is going to be. So that is why Active Directory is called database of everything on the network. And it is organized in the form of directories. Directories mean folders. No, the problem is, for example, if I want to find information about Alice, or for example, if Alice, she wants to log in, what sort of resource she can access, what would be, what group she belongs to, how can we find that information? In order to find this information, we use a protocol called LDAP. So Active Directory is basically a directory service, and it is installed onto Windows Server. So when we install Active Directory, the software is called Active Directory Domain Service. When we install this particular software on a server, that particular server then is called Domain Controller. So this server will be called Domain Controller. So if you want to manage Active Directory, you need to install Active Directory software, and server will be called DC Domain Controller. In order to find or gather information about the user, or for example resource, what group they are belongs to, or stuff like that, we use a query language called LDAP. All right, LDAP by default, when you install Active Directory on your server, so by default it comes with Kerberos, which provide authentication, and it provides LDAP service as well. So LDAP, nothing but query to find information. All right, let's take a good example quickly. So for example, imagine you got a client, and client, for example, let's say you work for a school, let's say xyz.edu. So let's say this is your university xyz.edu. So for example, you want to access your email address, and you want to access, for example, Blackboard or Canvas, the college management system, or let's say your academics or curriculum or your course management system. Now, what happens typically? Let's say you want to access, for example, your college email account. User will not directly go to that. So typically, most of the organization, they use single sign-on. So user will directly go to, for example, user type. For example, the Canvas user wants to access Canvas or Blackboard.xyz.edu. So this particular URL will take you to single sign-on, which is maybe managed by a third party, maybe Amazon, or maybe another company. They typically use Kerberos, SAML. There are a bunch of things, but let's take example of Kerberos. So let's say they use Kerberos in order to provide you authentication. So what you're going to do? So you're trying to access Canvas, but firstly, when you type this, you will be redirected to single sign-on. You will be asked to provide username and the password. So you're going to provide your username and password. When you provide username and password, what's going to happen? Kerberos will authenticate you. Let's say Kerberos has authentication database. They will issue you a ticket. Technically, that particular ticket is called TGT, ticket granting ticket. So you got a ticket. So that ticket says this user client is authenticated. So your organization typically use Outlook and Canvas. So there are multiple services which are not owned by your organization. These might be located maybe in California. This might be located, for example, in Texas, right? And owned by a different company, not your school. But, and this is also Amazon, but only server which your company or your organization or your school owns, that might be your Active Directory. All right, now what's going to happen? After you got the ticket, your browser will redirect to Canvas and present this TGT issued by Kerberos. Now, what will happen? Canvas will say, okay, I got you. You are a legitimate user, but I want to see whether you can access me or not. So Canvas will forward this TGT back to single sign-on server Kerberos and ask him, can you tell me with this TGT, can this person access Canvas or not? So we are typically looking for service ticket. This is called service ticket. Now, what happens if they authenticate TGT? They're gonna provide you service ticket. Service ticket mean this user can access that particular service Canvas. This user can use this Canvas. Now we got the person is legitimate. Person can access Canvas. Now within the Canvas we have access control list where we have different type of groups, right? So Canvas need to make sure what group I need to put the user in, like whether user can use in the group A or group B. Group A has, let's say, more privilege, maybe faculty, or group B may be staff, right? There might be multiple group. How Canvas will get that information? Canvas will now reach out to Active Directory. Now Active Directory has all the users with their groups. Now Active Directory, for in order to inquire Active Directory, they will use LDAP query. Now, with the LDAP query on Active Directory, LDAP is going to tell this particular user belong to, let's say, group number A. So whatever the group is, the user will be given access to those resources. So this is the main idea of Active Directory and LDAP. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you.